the nightmare matchup for every UFC champion right now. We have Jon Jones all the way down to Alexandre Pantoja, and I looked at all the contenders in their weight class and in other weight classes and saw, who is the most likely guy to actually go out there and dethrone him, because really nobody thinks a guy like Islam Makhachev is going to be losing to anybody anytime soon. There's not a lot of guys going out there and putting up a good fight against Alexandre Pantoja, so who is the most likely then to actually beat these guys? And for me, light heavyweight, it's Khamzat Chimaev. We're going to start with heavyweight, and I'll explain this one later, but we'll go with Jon Jones first and make our way down to the flyweight division very soon. But we got Tom Aspinall, of course. It's kind of a no-brainer in my opinion. Jon Jones is getting up there in age. I believe he's 39 or 40 years old now. Obviously, he used to be very, very good. He's technically, in my opinion, undefeated. On his record, he's got that one loss to Matt Hamill, but he's tall, he's lengthy, has good striking, good lengthy jabs and kicks at range, good wrestling, good grappling, all of that type of stuff. But I think stylistically, Aspinall has what you need to beat Jon Jones. He's got good wrestling, good grappling, which leads it to be a striking fight, and we've seen what striking fight with Jon Jones have kind of led to in the most recent years with guys like Thiago Santos, with Dominic Reyes, and these were close back and forth striking fights. Now that Jon Jones has put on his weight, he's a little bit bigger, he is getting slower, and Tom Aspinall honestly is a lot faster than even some of those light heavyweights that Jon Jones was fighting just a few years ago. So I do believe Aspinall has the ability to just defend takedowns, keep it on the feet, and basically outstrike Jon Jones with his speed and boxing. And I don't think the same can be said with literally any other guy in the UFC heavyweight division, because they are very one-dimensional. Let me kind of preface you with this. You got Ciryl Gane, a guy that obviously Jon Jones has already beaten. Well, Ciryl Gane can't defend a takedown for his life. I mean, his wrestling and grappling was exposed basically by Francis Ngannou, one of the power punchers of the heavyweight division. He went out there and dominated Ciryl Gane with the wrestling and grappling later on in the fight. Jon Jones did the same thing and submitted him. So obviously he's not going to be a stylistic matchup that would be favorable to beat a guy like Jon Jones. You can go on the other side of things for a Jailton Almeida, a Sergey Spivak, very good wrestlers and grapplers in the heavyweight division. But Jon Jones can defend their takedowns, obviously, and can outstrike a lot of those guys. Whereas Aspinall here can defend the takedowns, and he can keep it on the feet where he is actually the better striker, and Jon Jones isn't going to have the advantage where the fight is going to be taking place. So I do believe style-wise it's going to be a Tom Aspinall win, in my opinion, whereas a lot of the other guys, I think Jon Jones would actually beat. I think he beats Gane again. I think he'd beat a Jailton Almeida, a Curtis Blades, because he could actually defend his takedowns and outstrike Curtis Blades. There's a lot of good other matchups in the heavyweight division for Jon, and it just so happens that the interim champion, who he should have fought last at UFC 309, is obviously going to be the nightmare matchup for Jon Jones. And I don't know about you guys. I want to see in the comments down below, do you think Aspinall would beat Jon Jones if they were to fight today? I personally do believe he does, but we shall see. UFC is trying to make it happen. I'm hoping the nightmare matchup for Jon Jones actually happens. I want to see this fight next year, or this year, sorry. It is already 2025. You saw this at the beginning of the video. You might be wondering, why is Khamzat Chimaev the nightmare matchup for light heavyweight Alex Pereira? And I'm going to tell you this. Magomed Ankalaev, well, yes, he's got good wrestling. He has good grappling. He doesn't have that pressure. I would say he doesn't really have that pressure. He's kind of methodical with his wrestling and grappling. He gets you to the clinch, he gets one leg, and he's kind of working position to get you down. He might get you down. He might ground and pound you a little bit. He doesn't have a lot of finishing potential once he does get you down. That's one, because again, every round, you're going to get right back up, and Alex has another chance to knock you down. Chimaev, if he goes out there and fights Alex Pereira, he's able to get his takedown like he always does. In round number one, he has such a high finishing potential to go out there and finish Alex Pereira, where Ankalaev, he's going to have to do takedown after takedown after takedown in 5 rounds straight. Because if it stays on the feet, he's going to get clearly outclassed in the striking. Whereas Chimaev, I don't think he's going to get back up to the feet in round 2, round 3, because Chimaev is going to take him down in round 1 and likely finish him. Whereas, again, Ankalaev, if he takes him down in round 1, well, Alex Pereira can just wait it out till round 2, and then they're back in the striking, and he can knock him out. Obviously, those are the two fighters I was kind of picking as the nightmare matchup for Alex Pereira because, of course, Yuri Prochazka, Jamal Hill, Khalil Rountree, Jan Blachowicz, he's already beaten a lot of these guys. And he's shown to be able to knock him out or defend some of their takedowns in the Jan Blachowicz case, and then outstrike him on the feet. So I think Khamzat Chimaev going to be a little bit of a wild card for a lot of you guys, but I think it's actually the nightmare matchup for Alex Pereira. Just style-wise, it doesn't leave a lot for Alex Pereira. If he gets taken down a minute in, 30 seconds in, like Chimaev always does, 10-8 round versus Usman round 1, rear naked choke, smashing of the jaw against Robert Whittaker. Imagine what he does to Alex Pereira. That's Usman, very good collegiate wrestler, and Robert Whittaker, who has one of the best takedown defenses in UFC history. What will Chimaev do to Alex Pereira in round 1? Not going to be good style-wise, in my opinion. So, by far, in my opinion, it wasn't even really a debate. When I was kind of looking at him, I was like, yeah, it's clearly Chimaev. Well, it might not be the popular choice. It is clearly Chimaev as the number 1 nightmare matchup for Alex Pereira. I'm not saying Ankalaev is not a hard matchup. I honestly think that's a pick-em fight because he's going to mix in that wrestling and try to keep the striking as even as he possibly can. I think Chimaev, I would have him as 2-1. 66% chance to go out there and win. So, nightmare matchup, Khamzat Chimaev for Alex Pereira. Then we do have, well, the same man, Khamzat Chimaev, as the nightmare matchup for yet another weight class, this time in the UFC middleweight division. Do I think Sean Strickland, who is actually fighting Dricus du Plessis, is the nightmare matchup for Dricus du Plessis? No, I do not. It's a tough matchup. It was a close first fight, split decision, very close one. Cool. Very, very cool. I think Dricus wins again, and I think he's just going to keep it on the feet, outstrike him, and then mix in a few takedowns on Strickland and win that fight again on the judges' scorecards in a 48-47, 49-46 type of performance. Cool. Israel Adesanya, I think Dricus beats. Kyle Bahalio, I think he could go out there and he could close the distance on Kyle and outstrike him a little bit. Nasruddin Imavov, he's got better striking than. Robert Whittaker, he's already beaten. So honestly, it was actually in between Kyle Bahalio and Khamzat Chimaev. Style-wise, they're both very, very tough matchups for Dricus du Plessis. Number 1, Kyle Bahalio is my number 2. He is my number 2 nightmare matchup for Dricus. If Kyle and Dricus fought, I don't know who I would pick. If Khamzat and Dricus fought, I would pick Khamzat Chimaev. That's kind of why I picked Khamzat Chimaev as the official nightmare matchup. But I want to kind of discuss Kyle Bahalio really quickly. Kyle is a taller, lengthier, at-range, technical striker. He's bouncy, and he stays on the outside and picks you apart a little bit. Dricus is going to walk into a lot of punches, and of course, he's going to land some punches of his own. Kyle's going to counter on the outside as well, use his speed and elusiveness to win that fight. Dricus is going to try to come inside to win that fight. But I don't think Robert Whittaker versus Dricus du Plessis, where Dricus is able to land takedowns there and ground and pound a little bit, not going to be able to do that against Kyle Bahalio, where he was able to land takedowns and submit Israel Adesanya. It's not going to be able to do that with Kyle Bahalio. So he doesn't have, he can get in there like that and then try to shoot a takedown. It's not going to be there. You can't take down Kyle Bahalio. So a very, very tough matchup. That's my number 2 nightmare matchup for Dricus, but Khamzat Chimaev has got to be number 1 for me because we haven't seen Dricus' own takedown defense. Nobody is shooting takedowns on him. He's got good offensive wrestling, but not amazing. And he has been on bottom before. I mean, he tried to do a throw on Brad Tavares and got put straight to his back and ground and pounded for a little bit. I think Chimaev could get him down. I think Chimaev will land the takedowns here and win it early on. Again, it was kind of close between Kyle and Khamzat because Khamzat could gas out in the later rounds. Dricus is a hard man to beat. And he's got crazy cardio later on. So maybe Chimaev goes out there and wins the early rounds. Dricus survives, and Dricus uses his heart and toughness in the later rounds to win. Sure, very, very possible. So, do I think it's a for sure thing Chimaev beats Dricus? No. It's a hard matchup for sure for Chimaev, because if it goes to those later rounds, Dricus can win. Caio Borralho, I think, is going to be a close back and forth striking match where I think Dricus is a little bit better, a little bit more powerful, and will get inside and make it dirty on Caio Borralho and win that fight. Dricus, I versus Khamzat, it's such an interesting one as well, but it is a nightmare matchup for me. I do believe those are the only two matchups I would be honestly considering picking against Dricus. Everything else, I think Dricus probably wins. But Chimaev's stylistically early on in those fights is such a tough fighter to overcome. And Caio, technically, and good takedown defense and grappling, he could obviously steal it on a close scorecard. So those are two very tough matchups for Dricus du Plessis. Next one we got welterweights, Belal Muhammad. I think his has to be Joaquin Buckley. Now, let's look at the top five. We got Sean Brady, who Belal's already beaten. We got Leon Edwards, who Belal's already beaten. We got Kamaru Usman. A tough matchup. That is a tough matchup for Belal Muhammad, as neither guy is really going to take down the other guy. They're probably just going to strike. Sure, Usman could very well win that one. I'd have that one as a pick. And maybe Usman wins. Shavkat, I actually think Belal can land takedowns there and take down Shavkat a few times. We saw Ian Gary get takedowns and get the back of Shavkat Rakhmonov. I think Belal could actually take down Shavkat, where I can't see Shavkat, or I can't see Belal taking down a Kamaru Usman. I just can't. I can't see him. We've gotten to see a little bit of the cardio of Joaquin Buckley. Shavkat's cardio started to fade a little bit in those later rounds, so that is why I'm not picking Shavkat, is because I've seen his vulnerability in the wrestling department, whereas he's not going to be able to offensively take down Belal. I don't think he will be able to. And on the feet, I think Belal could win in the striking. I'll be straight up with you guys. I think he could actually outstrike Shavkat, defend takedowns from Shavkat, keep it on the feet, and even land takedowns on Shavkat, where Joaquin Buckley, so explosive, so powerful, I believe could use his explosibility and his sweat that's going to be dripping immediately as the fight starts to defend takedowns from Belal Muhammad and outstrike him. He's got the power, he's got the speed, he's got the bounce, and he's got great takedown defense and good get-ups from those takedowns. He doesn't give his back exposed or anything like that. He gets up from the takedown. So I do think Shavkat, again, I actually think Belal beats Shavkat. Jack Della Maddalena, who we haven't even discussed, does not have good wrestling or grappling. Belal wins that one. He already beat Leon. He already beat Sean Brady. Kamaru Usman, again, I think is a very, very tough matchup for Belal Muhammad. But I think Usman versus Belal is a close back and forth striking affair, like Usman versus, say, Colby Covington, whereas Buckley versus Belal, in the striking, Buckley's a lot better, and I think he defends the takedown. So stylistically, I think Buckley just has the perfect ingredients to defend the takedowns, keep the fight on the feet, outpower, outspeed, outvolume, everything on Belal Muhammad. He's got such an explosibility that you can't walk down Buckley. He was able to walk down Leon Edwards. He was able to walk down Steve Wonderboy Thompson. These guys are point fighters, strikers, that are trying to pick at you from the outside. Buckley's not trying to do that. Buckley will knock you out if you rush forward like Belal was doing going forward on Leon, like he was doing going forward like that on Sean Brady and things like that. He can do that against Shavkat. Shavkat doesn't have crazy punch power and things like that. Buckley does. So I do think there is going to be definitely a nightmare matchup for Belal, and it's Joaquin Buckley, ladies and gentlemen. It's Joaquin Buckley. Lightweight, Ilia Topuria, the lightweight nightmare matchup for Islam Makhachev. Now. Ilia Topuria and Arman Saryukian are the exact same height. Okay? That's where I was running into difficulty. I was like, maybe it's Arman. Maybe Arman is the nightmare matchup because he's beaten Charles Oliveira, he's beaten all these other guys. Charles could have been it, but Arman obviously just beat him. Gaethje, all these other strikers, they're not going to be the nightmare matchup for Islam. So it's really between Arman Saryukian and his next fight, of course, being with Islam Makhachev, and of course a wild card of Ilia Topuria to be the nightmare matchup. And the reason why I picked Ilia is I don't think Islam dominates Ilia in the wrestling or grappling. I don't think Islam dominates Arman Saryukian in the wrestling and grappling. Ilia is the better striker. He doesn't have as good a kicks as Arman Tsarukyan, but if he's able to get inside, which he always does, he'll lose round one to Max Holloway or lose round one like he did to Alexander Volkanovski, but he's able to get in there eventually and get on that chin and land some big boxing combinations. Arman Tsarukyan, it's going to be a lot of closer rounds on the outside. Leg kick, body kick, staying at range, jabbing, 1-2, staying at range. And there's really not a lot of danger there for Islam Makhachev, whereas there's a lot of danger there if you were to fight Ilia Topuria. Ilia is going to land harder shots. He's the better striker, the more powerful puncher, better technique. Not as good kicks as Arman Tsarukyan, but I think poses a bigger threat in the striking than Arman Tsarukyan, and I do think it would be a striking match. I don't think Islam dominates or gets a lot of takedowns on Ilia, maybe one, but I think Ilia actually has good wrestling and grappling, and will keep this fight on the feet. I do truly believe so. And do I think he wins? No, I think Islam edges it out in a close one. But I think this is actually going to be the hardest fight for Islam Makhachev. In my opinion, Ilia should be number 2, pound for pound. He beat Volkanovski, and then he beat Max Holloway, back-to-back by knockout. I think that's better than Jon Jones beating Gane and Stipe Miocic. I think that's better than Alex Pereira beating Khalil Roundtree after losing 2 rounds, beating Jiri Prochazka, beating Jamal Hill. I think Ilia's resume speaks for itself to be number 2 pound for pound. So number 1 versus number 2 pound for pound. In my opinion, I think that's the nightmare matchup, ladies and gentlemen. I think that's the nightmare matchup. Ilia Topuria versus Alexander Volkanovski. Now, this is going to sound a little bit ridiculous to you that a guy in Alexander Volkanovski that just got knocked out by Ilia Topuria would be the nightmare matchup. But let me take a look at some of the other guys in the featherweight division. Max Holloway is going up a weight class. We're not going to talk about him. We're going to talk about the other guys. Diego Lopez, the Movsar Evloev types, the Arnold Allens, the Yair Rodriguez, Brian Ortega types in the featherweight division. Let's get through it. Brian Ortega, next. Come on. Yair Rodriguez, next. Come on. Ilia's going to close that distance and even wrestle and grapple and beat him there. So it kind of leaves you with the, Diego Lopez and Movsar Evloev fights as the potential, nightmare matchup for Ilia Topuria, or it's Alexander Volkanovski. Now, I'll start with Movsar Evloev. The reason Movsar Evloev is not the nightmare matchup is his striking is just not there. I'll be straight up with you guys. Striking isn't there. He's got great wrestling, great grappling. He was able to show it against Aljamain Sterling. Do I think he's going to take down and easily beat Ilia on the ground or control the fight at all, get some submission attempts, get the back of Ilia? No. Throughout 5 rounds especially? No. And on the feet, I don't like Movsar striking at all. He doesn't have any power. His kicks are kind of okay. His boxing, again, kind of okay. Ilia would beat the brakes off of him in the striking, in my opinion. That's just a fact, in my opinion. Again, a fact in my opinion. Doesn't really make sense, but we'll go with it. And then we got Diego Lopez. Diego Lopez or Alexander Volkanovski. Well, Diego's got power. So you might be like, oh, well, Diego's got a chance to knock out Ilia Topuria. That's what I was originally thinking. He's got a chance to knock him out. Cardio-wise, I'm a little iffy on Diego Lopez. Haven't seen him in a 5-rounder. So I don't know what he will look like late. His chin has been tested a little bit, but not a crazy amount. Dan Ige didn't really crack him with a big shot. His last fight, Brian Ortega's not a striker. Sodiq Yusuff didn't crack him with anything. Pat Sabatini, Gavin Tucker, none of these guys cracked him with anything. So I don't know about the chin of Diego Lopez. We know, obviously, Volkanovski's coming off 2 knockout losses. I can't really say that, I would pick Diego because he's got a good chin. We don't know that yet. So I can't really pick him, although I think Ilia could actually knock out anyone after knocking out Max Holloway. But can't really use the chin as a factor to pick Diego Lopez or anything. We can just kind of pick that he's got good wrestling, good grappling, could probably keep it on the feet, make it a striking fight. But I don't feel confident in the gas tank. I'll straight up be I don't know what I'm trying to say now, but that's my reasoning is I can't kind of put aside the fact that Diego's never been in round 4, round 5. Just hasn't. Hasn't been in a 5-round fight. Has a lot of finishes on his record, a lot of round 1 wins. And he went to round 3 against Dan Ige, and he was starting to fade. I don't know. I think if he were to fight Ilia, I don't think he'd knock out Ilia. I don't think he'd submit Ilia. It would go to the later rounds because Diego, in my opinion, would be able to survive it, but maybe he gets knocked out like Holloway, like Volk. But if it goes to those later rounds, I don't feel confident about Ilia not going out there and just swarming on a slower and slower Diego Lopez, who I don't believe will have the cardio in those later rounds to keep up his early pace. His pace against Dan Ige in round 1 was crazy. I don't think he's going to be able to do that and sustain it long term. Whereas Volkanovski, doesn't matter what pace he puts on, he's actually able to win rounds and keep up a pace. He's been in plenty of 5-round fights. If he doesn't get cracked, if he's able to stay away from the big shots of Ilia Topuria, he's able to actually win rounds. He won, I believe he won 1 or 2 rounds against Ilia in their first fight before getting knocked out. He was out striking Ilia, landing leg kicks, landing jabs, 1-2s, and things like that. Then he got knocked out, of course. But he's like the only guy. I don't think anybody finishes Ilia. That's first out. Diego Lopez, Movzar, Arnold Allen, all these guys. I think we have to worry about those later championship rounds. And Volkanovski has crazy experience there and is able to win rounds, proven to win rounds against Ilia Topuria. So I don't think Volkanovski would beat Ilia. But if I got to pick anyone, if I got to stand here right now, gun to my head, who's most likely to pick, go out there and beat Ilia, had to be Volkanovski, and it would only be by decision. He's not finishing Ilia, but it'd have to be him winning round 1, winning one of the middle rounds, then barely winning the final round, just landing him on the feet by just a small margin. Just a small margin. He's got great takedown defense, we know as well, from the Islam Makhachev fight. So, again, nightmare matchup, not really a nightmare because he's already knocked out the man, but the hardest matchup for him, it's got to be Alexander Volkanovski. Next one, we got Umar Nurmagomedov for Merab Dvalishvili. Merab Dvalishvili. Now, Merab dominated everybody in the UFC Bantamweight division. We got Shegashan O'Malley, we got Piotr Yan, we got Henry Cejudo, we got Jose Aldo. Don't remind myself. God dang, I hate that he beat Jose like that. He's got a lot of these former wins over former greats and champions and things like that. Out wrestling and taking all these guys down and clinch. He can't do that with Umar. He can't do that with Umar. He can do that with basically everybody else in the UFC Bantamweight. He can't do that with Umar. Simple enough, right? Simple enough. That's literally the only reason he's on this list. Is he's not going to be able to do that pressure thing that he always does. Because Umar's really not going to be worried about the takedown threat of Merab. Umar really is not going to be worried about it. Umar can confidently go out there and strike with Merab. Piotr Yan can't do that. That's why Piotr was getting outstruck at moments by Merab, is because he's constantly worrying about takedowns. Umar's not going to be. Umar isn't going to be. So that's literally the reason he is the nightmare matchup for Merab, is he's not going to be worrying about takedowns. He's going to be able to focus entirely on striking Merab Dvalishvili. And we just saw Umar outstrike Corey Sandhagen. So he should be able to outstrike Merab, who's really only has boxing, few leg kicks here and there, and not a very diverse game because he's just using the punches to set up takedowns. How is it going to work when he can't get the takedowns and he's just using the punches as punches to actually land on his opponent? It's not going to be very good. Doesn't really have any power, not a lot of technique. Umar has good technique, good kicks, and he's just the better striker. So the nightmare matchup for the Bantamweight division is, of course, Umar Nurmagomedov. Flyweight, oh my God, I know. You guys are going to hate me for this. You're going to hate me for this. It's Brandon Raw Dog Roy Val. Now, it's flyweight. It's flyweight, okay? Pantoja is literally clearing out the entire division. He's beaten Royval, I think, twice. He's beaten Moreno 3 times. He's beaten Kai Kara France. He's beaten Manel Kape. He beat Kai Asakura. He beat Steve Erceg. Alex Perez. I mean, I could probably go on and find more guys, but goddamn, the dude's beaten everybody in the UFC flyweight division. And if there are guys he hasn't beaten, the guys he's beaten have beaten them. So I don't know. There is no actual guy. You can say Asu Almabayev. Asu isn't proving good striking. So what if it's a striking fight? We don't know. So I had to go to one of the guys that's already fought Pantoja because they've already proven themselves. And Royval is actually improving. He's lost to Pantoja twice. He got submitted in the first fight. Then I think he won 1 or 2 rounds the second fight. So he's improving against Pantoja every time he fights him. And since he fought him, it's been a little bit over a year. And he's beaten Brandon Moreno, outstruck him on short notice, I may add. And then he went out there and beat Tatsuro Taira, defended a lot of his takedowns, got some reversals, attempted some submissions, and really showed an improvement in his own ground game. A big improvement that I think would help him if he were to fight Pantoja again. Do I think he would beat Pantoja even if he fought again? No. But he's in his prime right now. He's 32 years old. He's gotten better every fight. His striking is, I would say, number 1, number 2, number 3 in the division. It's top 3 for sure. It could be number 1 if we're looking at it, because he's able to use his takedown defense to outstrike. He outstruck Tatsuro Taira badly in his last fight. He outstruck Brandon Moreno in the fight before that. So I would honestly venture to say, and it wouldn't be a hot take, that Brandon Royval is the best striker in the UFC flyweight division. And what does that mean? Well, last time he fought Pantoja, he outstruck Pantoja. He landed 20 more strikes, or 15, something like that, more than Alessandro Pantoja. Obviously, he lost due to the takedowns, the submission attempts, and control of Pantoja, but the wrestling, grappling, takedown defense, submission defense, reversals, get-up game, all of that showed improvement in his most recent Tatsuro Taira fight. So knowing that, I don't think he's going to be taken down and controlled as much as the last fight. And his striking is getting better. He outstruck Pantoja last time. He'll outstruck him if they were to fight again. So I honestly do think if they were to fight again, I'm going to be a little bit more confident in Royval in this next matchup than I was last time, because he keeps on getting better, and we're not seeing crazy improvements from Pantoja. He's kind of just looking like the same Alessandro Pantoja every single fight. I think Royval is he's kind of leveling up everything. His boxing's looking a lot more fluid. His cardio's amazing. It's always been very, very good. It's staying good. His jiu-jitsu's getting better. His wrestling's getting better. Again, get-up game. All of that's getting better and better and better, where Brandon Moreno, I mean, we haven't seen him in a while. He just outstruck Amir Albazi, but he lost to Pantoja 3 times, and Royval outstruck him. So you can look at other guys in the flyweight division again. Asu, you can look at Manel Kape, but I think Manel got taken down multiple times by Muhammad Mokaev, so I can't say I'd be confident in that not happening again. Whereas Royval is happened to him. He got taken down a lot by Pantoja, got up a lot against Pantoja, then proved better and better improvements against Tatsuro Taira in his last fight. So, do I think he beats Pantoja if they were to fight a third time? No. Is he most likely to in this hectic flyweight division that Pantoja's beaten everybody in? Yeah. Royval literally has the best chance. And if he's a huge underdog, again, against Pantoja, I'm going to probably bet on him. I'm probably going to put a couple $100 on Brandon Royval, because I think it's closer to a pick'em. It's closer to a pick'em right now, especially after watching the Taira fight, because I think Taira and Alessandro Pantoja are on similar levels of wrestling and grappling. Pantoja's a little bit better, but Royval just keeps getting better down there, and Pantoja keeps on getting older. So I think we're going to see a little bit of a different outcome. A split decision next time maybe. Or maybe a Royval upset underdog, raw dog win. You never know. It's the most likely case scenario for somebody go out there and beat Pantoja. Nobody's knocking him out. You can't say Kai Kara France is going to knock out Pantoja. Nobody knocks out Pantoja. You can't see Davison Figueiredo going down a flyweight, because man's going to gas out doing the weight cut. He's not going to be good in the later rounds because of the weight cut. So Brandon Royval is my nightmare matchup for Alessandro Pantoja. Umar is the nightmare matchup for Merab. Volkanovski is the nightmare matchup for Ilia Topuria. And, of course, Ilia is the nightmare matchup for Islam Makhachev. Joaquin Buckley is the nightmare matchup for Bilal Muhammad. Khamzat Chimaev is the nightmare matchup for Dricus du Plessis. Khamzat Chimaev is the nightmare matchup also for Alex Pereira. And last but not least, Tom Aspinall, come on, guys. Come on. Come on, guys. Is the nightmare matchup for John Bones Jones. If these guys would get locked in a room by themselves, only one man walks out, is Tom Aspinall. Dana White? Alright, thank you guys for watching this video. The nightmare matchups for every current UFC champion. If you waited to the end, thank you very much, because I'm about to give you the female nightmare matchups, that being Valentina Shevchenko, Weili Zhang, and Juliana Pena. For Juliana Pena, it is obviously Kayla Harrison. For the women's flyweight division, I would say Manon Fiorot. And then for the UFC's strawweight division, it is Tatiana Suarez. So thank you guys for watching the video. Nightmare matchups for every UFC champion. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment your thoughts down below, and check that pinned comment as well if you want to support the channel and get a lot of perks as a Burt MMA member. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. John Jones, Diddy, best friends forever.